You get what you pay for, and the problem is you don't really realize what you're paying for until things start going wrong.
Hillary Dawa Sherpa's family had already begun his funeral rituals. Most of the ladders that would help him escape had been pulled from the mountain. The agency that hired him had written him off. No searches or no rescues were called for. But he was still alive, and then soon to be trapped in a crevasse at 5,500 meters for 2.5 days, surviving on pocket chocolates and chewing on ice to stay alive. And somehow, miraculously, before the first helicopter went overhead to look for him, 6 days had gone by, and Hillary Dawa Sherpa crawled into base camp on his hands and knees. And the company that hired him, who sent him up, they told one of their clients not to say anything to the media about it. What I'm about to talk about today is not a tragedy, it's a transaction. And believe it or not, it is not at all uncommon for this to take place on Mount Everest. Had Hillary Dawa Sherpa not survived, he would have become just another statistic on the mountain. But his unyielding will to survive has created a gaping hole in the dirty secret of the Everest industry. And now Nepal's Department of Tourism has opened an investigation into the expedition operator. And now, again, because Hillary Dawa Sherpa survived, the world is watching. Will it really change anything on the mountain? We have yet to see. The first question we have to ask is, how could this happen on Mount Everest? Well, loss of life is nothing new to extreme mountain climbing. It's as old as mountain climbing itself. But as the commercial realm has entered Mount Everest and the 8,000-meter peaks, and operators are cutting corners to try to make the most amount of money with the least amount of expense on the mountain, things can go terribly wrong. There are many stories about people dying up on that mountain, and because they died, they were unable to bring their story home. Hillary Dawa's survival, as I've said in my past 2 videos about this story, has given us an opportunity to actually see what's really going on Mount Everest. This is certainly the exception and not the rule. There are many, many excellent expedition operators out there who would never leave a person or one of their mountain workers to die up on the mountain without sending people and helicopters to go and try to save them. But now, with very little regulations on the mountain, there are many low-budget expedition operators entering into the commercial realm on Mount Everest, and they promise things that they do not deliver on.
And so people go internet shopping for an Everest expedition. It would be like going internet shopping for your heart transplant and going, right, well, I'm going to get the cheapest one.
Guy Cotter of Adventure Consultants, one of the Everest royalty, who has been there for decades on the mountain, including during the '96 tragedy, has compared it to getting open heart surgery. If you were searching for the best doctor in the world to ensure your survival, would you go for the lowest price surgeon, or would you hire the one that you knew was going to bring you back alive? And so this system developed to lure people in to pay what seems like a bargain on a slam dunk summit is called the bait and switch, and many people fall for it. Polish client Mariusz Kimilewski, he paid for elite multi-summit Sherpas, as did Chris Thrall, who I featured in a previous video that drew such incredible, visceral response that it almost seems as some explanation is needed. And because of that divisiveness, some of the anger that resulted, pointing fingers at the clients, if you will, of this expedition operator, they were hiring Himalayan Traverse Adventures, that the idea for this video came up. Going back again to the '96 Everest disaster, I've said over and over, you cannot blame the client for what takes place up on the mountain. The brunt of the blame for just about anything that happens up the mountain should rest upon the shoulders of the expedition operator and the leader of that expedition. And Mariusz, at the balcony at 8,400 meters, he discovered that his lead Sherpa, Hillary Dawa Sherpa, had never once summited Everest. That's pretty shocking when you're promised a Sherpa who has climbed there multiple times. The agency had originally assigned Dawa just as a Camp 2 cook, but sent him into the death zone after the prodding and urging of Mariusz and Chris Thrall, who I mentioned earlier, and because essentially the company was understaffed. It was near the end of the season, and they were scrambling to get their clients up to the summit. And the agency owner's defense on sending Hillary Dawa Sherpa up high into the death zone was that they said he was the strongest Sherpa at the time. Strong or not, it doesn't seem defensible that Hillary Dawa should have been sent up above Camp 2 when clearly his job was at Camp 2 or anything below that. I've covered similar stories about this where clients unfortunately die on their summit trip as well as the Sherpa with them. But since they died, there was really no accountability. It was just racked up as another statistic on the mountain. And so you can see how in these low-budget expeditions, the system essentially is kind of rigged because of the lack of regulations on the mountain. Again, I've called for numerous times that Nepal should carefully vet not only the climbers who are allowed to be on the mountain, but the expedition operators who are allowed to operate. There's a lot of bait and switch going on at the risk of the lives of not only the clients, but the high altitude mountain workers. You get what you pay for. And sometimes this carefully constructed facade crumbles and lives are lost, or in the case of Hillary Dawa Sherpa, he breaks a hole wide open, providing us a view into what's taking place in the lower tiers of the Mount Everest industry. When Hillary Dawa went missing during the descent, the agency made no search or rescue attempt. They presumed that he was dead. They told the clients point blank at base camp that he was gone. The responsibility to call for a rescue, 100%, it goes on the shoulders of the expedition operator. And so when Hillary Dawa Sherpa made it miraculously as far as Camp 1 at the top of the Khumbu icefall, as he made his way down, he learned that most of the ladders had been removed, and not by the icefall doctors, but through an agreement with the expedition operator that their Sherpas would pull certain ladders from the icefall. Pretty interesting. That's a presumption that Hillary Dawa would never make it down there. And so if you're going to leave one ladder, why not leave all of the ladders there? Fortunately, there were some ladders, but still, Hillary Dawa Sherpa ends up in a crevasse for 2.5 days. And the only reason he made it out was because avalanches continued sloughing into the crevasse, and he was able to climb on top of the snow and extricate himself. On his hands and knees, he finally made it down to the glacier, discovered, ironically, by people on garbage duty on the mountain. And so the silence protocol, while Hillary Dawa was still missing, Mariusz has said that the agency warned him not to contact the media. This is from an interview done with Mariusz. This is an article in the Everest Chronicle that mysteriously disappeared and then came back up recently. And then they also refused to return the $1,500 summit deposit, which I've never heard about. I've heard about summit bonuses, of $1,500, but I've never heard of them being paid in advance. Typically, that $1,500 would be given back in base camp after a successful return from the summit. And now the $1,500 that Mariusz had given to the expedition operator was being held, claiming that it was now, quote unquote, search costs for a rescue that they never conducted. The silence was deafening, but not as deafening as it was for Hillary Dawa Sherpa. Everest was a different mountain 25 years ago. It was a place where expeditions were about exploration, about pushing human limits, not about pushing as many clients as you could possibly get to the summit. There are some expedition operators who have more than 60 clients. These people become a commodity, and because of their low expedition costs, these people are flocking this year with over 1,000 summits on the mountain. It is really, truly a miracle that more people did not lose their lives on the mountain. The commercialization has become kind of like being able to go internet shopping. I referred earlier to Guy Cotter from Adventure Consultants. He says it's really a new phenomenon. You go shopping for the lowest priced expedition operator, you get what you pay for. You just need to go into Wikipedia and type in all the people who have died on Mount Everest, and you scroll down in the last 15 or 20 years and you look at the different expedition operators where a client has died. A lot of the deaths over the last 10 years have been totally preventable. 2018 being one example. 2023, 18 deaths. So many easily preventable deaths. When you see a death listed as altitude sickness, we've got a problem here.
In this day and age, there are a huge number of Nepalese operators who offer expeditions to Everest. And it's like a fight for the bottom of the market. They're all just trying to get in to run expeditions because the successful ones are making a lot of money.
And echoing again Guy Cotter, he highlights the discrepancy between what he calls Western operators and cut-rate agencies that are engaged in a fight for the bottom. Those are his words. And he said in 1953, it took 36 years to get to 270 total summits from the first ascent of Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay. And then last month, the same number of people made it to the top of Mount Everest in a single day. So, as Cotter says, we've transitioned from an era of elite exploration to a processing plant where clients with zero experience are enabled to risk their lives for social media prestige. The Nepal Department of Tourism has launched an investigation. A criminal case has been filed in Kathmandu. The Nepal Mountaineering Association is calling for accountability. Hillary Dawa Sherpa is alive. Thank God he survived. He's recovering from frostbite and the emotional trauma of having to crawl down the mountain. But here's what we need to sit with. Hillary Dawa Sherpa is not the first. Hillary Dawa Sherpa will not be the last. Not until Nepal determines that the Everest industry must not champion that the cheapest route to the summit is acceptable. What do you think? I'd love to see your comments in the section below. Let's get the conversation started. Please be respectful in the comments. And if you're still here and are not a subscriber, please just take a moment to subscribe to Everest Mystery so you can be on top of all the things that are taking place on the mountain. And check out our members section, where we have tons of exclusive content, and you can also go get some free exclusive content over on patreon.com/Everest Mystery. And I'll put a link also to my 10 Commandments of Mount Everest, which covers some of these very problems we've been discussing today. And also make sure you check out our merch store at everestmystery.com. You've got hats, hoodies, sweatshirts, t-shirts, lots of good stuff to sport your favorite YouTube channel about Mount Everest. And in the meantime, do a good deed. Don't ask for anything in return, and make the world a better place, one tiny step at a time. Peace be with you.